All right. Hello, and welcome back to another live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin prices, some new trading news, and some other things. We're going to be examining where Bitcoin is going, what is going to happen, and we're going to be talking about some recent crypto news and what it means and what's going to happen. Now, if you're new here, I break down crypto and markets calmly and professionally without any hype. Today we're going to mostly talk about Bitcoin and more specifically a bearish technical structure that analysts are watching right now. First, let's look at the price of Bitcoin itself. So if you look at it right now, it's sitting at 87,637. And we can see here that there is a basically a liquidation sweep that is happening right now, and has been like a continuation for a very long time. So from all of this was going on right now, we can see that there's been a lot of momentum that's driving up the price because there's a lot of liquidity up here and up here. So what does this mean? It means that there's a lot of people buying, trying to do a liquidity sweep at the very top here, so they can cash in people who have their basically liquidity being up there. So we see also the same thing happening here. This is the reason why it's jumping up so high at a very low amount of time is because you can see at the very bottom here there's a lot of selling and buying momentum. We can see here this is the volume of buying and selling. First, I want to say what I'm using in TradingView, the indicators that I'm using the volume, and I'm using basically the Lux algorithm and the Lux algorithm liquidity sweep and the support and resistance level with breaks basically. So what's going on here right now is that a lot of buyers are trying to buy to liquidate all the short positions that are happening, because shorting you usually have to put usually you get liquidated if it gets longed. So we see that there's a lot of buying momentum that is happening, so people can try to do a little bit of liquidity sweep at the edge here. And yeah, this is why there's a lot of buying position that's been happening over here, and there is now a lot of shorting, a lot of selling that's been happening to stop it from reaching this liquidity position at the very top, which is very interesting. And same thing happened before. You can see even here around this area, we can judge that it tried to do at the very start the same thing over here, where a lot of buyers try to raise the price at the very top so it hits the liquidity at the very top, and then after that a lot of sellers kept selling so it doesn't liquidate them basically. Then it hovered around that area for a pretty decent amount of time. It got stabilized, and then it went up more. It went up more to try to also hit the liquidation price again, which it did. So after it did, the price shot up pretty high because a lot of people got liquidated, basically short positions. And yeah, after that, it hit at the very top as well. Now the same thing is basically happening here, and it will probably even happen more at the very top, because this liquidity position is this liquidation sweep area is a lot more than this. So a lot more buyers and sellers are going to try to hit that area. Yeah, but you can see here now the price is sitting at 87,635 and it's hovering around that. Usually if it reaches around this area, it means it will get even shot up even more and more liquidity that's going to happen. But because there's not really much happening, the wicks are the candles are still pretty even. There's not much there's not really much buying and selling that's happening. But yeah, we're now looking at the 3-minute time frames, and we have the volume indicator, we have the Lux liquidity sweep indicator, support and resistance. We can see the support and resistance levels are over here, but now it's gonna probably increase to over here. Yeah, this is very interesting. And now Bitcoin is hovering around 87,570, which is very interesting. Now I want to talk about some bit of news. Basically, TradingView posted an article, and I found it very interesting. It's we're gonna talk about it, and it talks about Bitcoin, and more specifically a bearish technical structure that like analysts are watching right now. Basically, a structure that puts two important price levels on the map: the 92,550 and 82,000. So right now it's at 87,000. So it's basically like hovering around that current price. Yeah. So now let's be very clear. This is like not really a prediction. I'm just like basically showing and reading what the article means. This is not like a guarantee that it's gonna go all the way up or all the way down to 82,000. It's just like a technical scenario that people are talking about that is based on like price structure and like not emotions or like Twitter or vibes or something. But yeah. So what does like bearish structure like even mean? When analysts say like bearish structure, they're not saying like Bitcoin is dead or like the bull market is over, like, or we're definitely crashing. A bearish structure simply means like on this chart, price is falling failing to move higher, and instead of is making lower highs while struggling to hold previous support levels. That's it. Like there's no like drama or no emotions. It's just like price is just changing and like going slightly lower. Now there are like markets like basically moves in structure, not straight lines. So there's only like three basic like states a market can be in. Basically an uptrend, a downtrend, or like a range or consolidation. Basically we can even like see it in a very short or like small scale over here, where like this is just like not an uptrend or like a low trend, but like for example like this is an uptrend. A bearish structure means that like it appears usually when like buyers are less aggressive and sellers step in earlier than before, so rallies get rejected faster. And that's like what the article is like basically pointing out. According like to this article, support is where buyers previously like stepped in. Bitcoin recently lost support around like the $90,000 mark, and it hasn't really reached that in a pretty like a long time, and even it reached it a bit ago around this mark where it nearly like but it broke, and there was like a lot of like bear wicks at the very top, and even we were live during this time where we even saw the liquidation event at the top here, but it was at the bottom here because a lot of like sellers like a lot of liquidity happened at the at this area, and it was very interesting because there was basically, as you can see here, there was a liquidity sweep here, and there's another liquidity sweep here. So it even though like buyers tried all the like for it to go all the way up here to liquidate some of the shorter positions, it didn't actually reach that. So it went all the way down here because it shorted set buyers, and even after that, buyers try to save it and make it like stay at this around this momentum over here, but it didn't stabilize here, and it even got shorted again all the way down here, where it also had another breaker like at the very bottom as well. But yeah, this is we saw this like the other day when we were also like live, and I found this very interesting and very like informative as well. We can now go back and we can see like also the same thing happening in this areas where even there's like positions where it even after getting like liquidated, it still like shoots up all the way over here, and before it reaches this liquidation level, it also goes like a lot of sellers like sell so they don't get liquidated, or like they basically try to not get liquidated, and then it tries to stabilize here because a lot of like buying momentum is happening, so it tries to reach all the way up there, all the way around this liquidation level, which it doesn't, but then it like stabilizes around all of this area, and then it like hits this liquidity sweep, and then it goes all the way down here, and then you can see also at the very bottom here, let's just delete the drawings. You can see also at the bottom here there was a very like big sell orders over here, which basically triggered this liquidation sweep at the very bottom. And you can see like basically liquidation sweep is where like it goes and liquidates people and then it goes back to the price where it was before. You can see that it's basically what happened here. And then we can try to continue over here where we can see basically the same like stabilization area and a lot of like buyers and sellers like basically just fighting, but it's mostly equal, and there's a little bit more buying momentum here because I'm pretty sure there was another liquidation event that's going to happen here, and this is where the new support and resistance group happening. But there wasn't really much happening in the past like hour or so, but we can see that support and resistance levels were basically equal. There's not much trading. There is just a little bit of fair value gaps where we can see certain ones. Like for example here, like this is a fair value gap where it goes all the way up and then it downs again, and then like you can see these three candlesticks, and then it goes down again because this is basically a fair value gap, which is very, very interesting. Now, there's not really been much price movement. It's just hovering around 87,600 and 88,000. But after a bit, it dropped pretty hard, all the way to 86,000, and then now it went all the way back because there's a lot of breaker like bullish candles, bullish wicks, and even though it went down, a lot of people tried to keep it down by having their liquidity sweeps all the way over here. So you can see that even though like the price were going up, there's a lot of like buying that's been going on to help try to basically liquidate a lot of people, which it hovered around for a bit, and then there was a lot of selling positions because there's another liquidity sweep over here. And then after that it went and there was a pretty decent fair value gap where it shot up pretty big in the bull wick over here, which it basically also hit this pretty big liquidity sweep. That's why it shot all the way up here from around 87,000, like 86,000 or 87,000 to 87,600, which is very interesting. But yeah, I think the price is trying very hard to liquidate these positions that are open here, which I think it might happen pretty soon because there's a lot of like buying and selling momentum. So the buyers and sellers are fighting pretty hard into basically hitting this liquidity sweep point, which is very interesting. Now, let's talk about like what happened to Bitcoin recently. According to the article that I was talking about, Bitcoin recently lost support around the $90,000 area, which it has been for the very long time. This matters because support is where buyers previously stepped in. When support breaks, it often like becomes resistant. This changes how traders behave psychologically. So once Bitcoin dropped below that like $90,000 zone, rallies became weaker and buyers became more cautious. So sellers gained like short-term control. Again, it's like short-term. It's not really a like forever or anything. It's just basically there's a bit of control of the sellers. This is basically what's happening here as well. This is a lot of like sellers having control over the liquidity sweep. But yeah, this shift is what caused analysts to start mapping like downside scenarios. So the 92,550 level, and why this specific number matters, it's because it's like it's misunderstood. It's not a random number. It's not a magic target. It's not like where price must go. According to analysts, like the reference in the article, Bitcoin has attempted like multiple rallies. Those rallies keep failing in the same resistance zone. That zone is roughly 92,500 or 93,500. This creates what we call repeated rejection. So when price moves up and hits the same zone, then gets rejected and does this multiple times, that tells you sellers are active there. Think of it like a ceiling. Price can jump but keeps hitting its head. So when the article says like Bitcoin price could move to 92,550, what it actually means is if Bitcoin bounces, this is the area where the sellers may step in again. And we can see like actually Bitcoin is like basically going up pretty decently from where it was around like 87,700, which is very interesting. And it even like if it goes up here around this zone, it will probably shoot up even more all the way up there, which is very interesting. Now, basically what 92,500 is basically a test level. It's not like a destination basically. So lower highs, like it's the core of the bearish structure. So the most important technical concept in this entire analysis is that lower highs means price rallies but fails below the previous high. So for example, the first high you can see maybe for example is 100,000, the next high is 95,000, and the next high is going to be 92,500. The sequence tells us that buyers are losing momentum, sellers don't need price to go as high to sell, and confidence is weakening in the short term. So this is exactly what the article describes. As long as Bitcoin keeps making like lower highs and fails to reclaim broken support, the structure remains bearish. And also you can see now the price of Bitcoin is actually going around that area because people are trying to liquidate the other people. Yeah, you can see here it's at around 87,800, and if it hits this area, or maybe even like this area, it will probably like shoot up all the way a little bit more, because you can see what happened in this resistance liquidity sweep level. The same thing is happening here, which is like, but on a much larger scale. So as long as Bitcoin keeps like making lower highs and fails to reclaim broken support, the structure remains bearish. So this article also mentions like tight price compression. So price range is getting smaller, volatility is decreasing, and buyers and sellers are temporarily like balanced. You can see like even from the recent thing, this is like basically kind of balanced. It's hovering like around 1% difference or 1.5% difference. And yeah, you can see now the price is actually shooting up all the way to 87,840 because there's a liquidity sweep at the very top here, where a lot of positions might get liquidated. Yeah, as I was saying, this is not like a bullish or bearish by itself. Comparison simply means a bigger move is likely coming, like the direction like unknown. However, here's the key. Comparison inside a bearish structure usually resolves in the direction of like the trend itself. This is why analysts are like cautious. Not because price is crashing, but because the structure hasn't flipped bullish yet. Now, we can also talk about the other scenario, the $82,000 scenario, and what would need to happen for it to hit that mark. Oh, the price is actually shooting up pretty high, because this liquidation event actually might make it hit around like 88,000, because yeah, you can see 87,900 reached around that. But a lot of sellers are going to try to save this liquidity up here. Yeah, you can see even there's a shorter, like a newer liquidity sweep area that just popped up. This basically means that a lot of people are trying to sell, and that's what's happening right now, where the price is going down because of that. Now, the other number that we want to talk about is the $82,000 scenario, and what would need to happen here. Basically, those conditions are like Bitcoin rallies towards 92,500, gets rejected again and fails to break the bearish channel, and then loses short-term support. If that sequence plays out, then the next major support zone on the chart, based on like previous structures, is probably around 82,000. Yeah, and you can see here a lot of sellers actually try to sell so they don't get liquidated at the very top, because there's a very big liquidity sweep position, which, yeah, it happened again. Now it reaches 87,750 because they are trying to save all their liquidity area. Now, if the sequence play out, then like the next major support zone on the chart based on previous structures is around like 82,000. That's it. Like, it's not a prophecy, it's not loom, it's like a short logic. But alternative scenarios, like how the bearish like thesis might actually fail, is that the Bitcoin, if it broke above this channel and reclaims like 92,500 or like 93,500 and holds above it, if that happens, then lower highs are broken, structure shifts, bears lose control, and that's why professionals wait for confirmation. Now, what this means for traders is very important. If you're short-term traders, this structure matters. Basically, there's like key principles that they have to follow. It's like trade levels, not opinions. Like respect resistance, don't assume breakout without like confirmation, and this environment like favors like patience. You can't just go all in. For example, right now, it still is not guaranteed that the price will still go all the way up because of the liquidation that's happening right now, because a lot of sellers might try to sell or hold even shorter positions as well to save said area. Now, what all this means for long-term investors, like if you're a long-term investor, this changes much less than you think. Why? Long-term trends are not defined by short-term structures, or pullbacks like are normal. So volatility is a part of Bitcoin's nature, and risk management still matters. So understanding structure helps avoid like panic decisions. But yeah, we can now look at the same thing. Bitcoin is hovering around 87,819. And now it's still hovering around the same support and like resistance level for the past like 20 minutes or so, and it's trying so hard to get like liquidated around this area. Yeah, and now you can see like how much like sellers did at the very here because of the wicks of the candle itself. There's a lot of selling that's happened. That's why it held the candle at the very top. So now there's another like article that I wanted to discuss about, and it's a analyst who predict the Bitcoin price top reveals the next buy level, and this is where he's talking about where buy and like sell levels, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, you can see a lot of selling happening here because a lot of liquidation events that are at the very top, liquidity sweeps that might happen at the very top. They're trying basically the same thing that happened over here and over here, where a lot of sellers will try to sell so they don't get liquidated at the very top, which they might try to save as well, but because it happened here and here, it might also happen here as well. Now, the article that I want to mention actually talks about like top reveals the next like buy level, which you should not take as a suggestion, is basically like what the article is talking about. Now, crypto analyst Dr. Profit has publicly shared the next price level where he plans to buy Bitcoin around 86,000. So literally a bit ago, he should have bought around this area, where as part of a trade targeting a short-term relief bounce in price. So Dr. Profit is reportedly still bearish on Bitcoin in the long term, expecting a larger decline to unfold even after the short term setup. So he's basically like the opposite of what he is doing. He previously predicted Bitcoin's top around 126,000 and is now positioning accordingly. The analyst described his trade yeah, give me 1 second. It's around 87,774, which is very interesting. And there's a lot of like selling momentums. Uh, it's hovering around that for the past like thing, and then the new wick will update in like 3 seconds, which is very interesting. I think it will go down here. But yeah, you can see there's a lot of momentum that is happening here. Uh, Now a lot of selling still going on, trying to save this from getting liquidated over here, and this is like kind of like very hard to understand where it's gonna go towards. Yeah, as I was saying, like Dr. Profit previously predicted like a Bitcoin price drop around like 126,000, and which actually happened. This gave him like credibility in the eyes of many market participants because of that prior call. So traders are now like paying attention to his like current outlook. Now let's like pause here for a moment. In professional trading, being right once does not make someone like infallible. So markets are like probabilistic. So when an analyst document their reasoning, risk management, and individual levels, their work becomes educational even if you disagree with that direction. So for example, like what's happening over here, if you study this area and study this area, you will also say, oh, the price now will definitely go up. But we don't know that for sure because it's still probabilistic. Um, Now, what the article is actually saying is that the article doesn't actually say anything like Bitcoin will crash or Bitcoin must go to a specific price. He basically outlined three like key points where the short-term buy interest around 86,000 and like overall bearish bias in the midterm, expectations of continued volatility and instability. So each of these need to be understood separately. Now the 86,000 level, what like next buy level really means is that in the article itself, the Dr. Profit explains that around 86,000 is where he personally interested in opening a long position, expecting the price to go even higher. So what does that mean? This like does not really mean that he thinks Bitcoin is cheap forever. He thinks the bottom is in, or he thinks risk is gone. It means something very specific. He sees a potential short-term trade opportunity at that level, and we can kind of agree that if he did put a trade at around the $86,200 level, then it goes up all the way to $87,800 level. If he actually mentioned before that he wanted to trade at around 86,000. So basically, he sees like a potential short-term trade opportunity at that level. That's it. This is what professional traders do, and oh, you can see the huge amount of buying positions that just shot up, trying to hold the position all the way and like liquidate at the very top. This identified areas where risk to reward may be favorable. They plan entries before price reaches them. They define risk before entering. So buying does not automatically means like bullish forever. So why 86,000 matters technically? Basically, this article implies that, oh, look at the price right now, it's going up 87,809, and if it actually reaches this position, it probably will like liquidate all the way a little bit more up. Like previous This article highlights like three main points where Bitcoin previously traded around this area, and there were activity, liquidity, and reactions here, and that makes it a level where like traders watch again. When price revisits a zone where buyers and sellers were active before, or like decisions were made or liquidity exists, it often reacts again, at least like temporary. But that reaction could be like a bounce, a pause, or even like a breakdown. You can see, oh yeah, see, we kind of talked about, because of the liquidation that is happening over here, it will reach 87,900, and it might even reach 88,000. But it needs to even shoot higher as well to go all the way up here. But there's still a lot of sell. Yeah, you can see there's still a lot of selling position orders from this wicks here. So this is where like many retail traders get confused. Dr. Profit is a bearish overall, but still willing to buy short term. This is not like a contradiction. Professional analysts like trade time frames, market bias, investment horizon. According to the article, the $86,000 buy is meant for a short-term relief bounce, not for a long-term hold without risk. Or like not even like for blind conviction. This is like extremely important. Yeah, one of the most important like details in the article is risk control, even like using a tight stop loss, or moving to the stop loss to break even once in profit. And this tells us like something critical. Like he's not married to the trade itself. This is also what he. Oh, look at this very huge candlestick. Look at this candlestick. It's very interesting. There was so much buying and so much selling that happened, but it didn't even reach the top area, similar to what happened here as well. But this was a short. This was a smaller position. It was like a bearish instead of bullish. Yeah, and even now the sellers are stepping in very hard. You can see so much selling power compared to the other one. Now the price is sitting around 87,700. If this is how, yeah, you can see like it's kind of trying to go up and then down and then up and then down and then up and then down. Probably will go up again and then down. But if it actually hits all the way up here, it will probably shoot all the way up because of the liquidation events that are happening right now. Yeah, you see this, there's a lot of selling power that is happening, like a lot of selling that is happening right here, trying to save this liquidity area, and this is what we expected going down as well. This is kind of what we thought about it. There's another interesting article about saying that Bitcoin might actually hit 50,000 if it didn't like hit quantum. Now, the conversation around Bitcoin future often focuses like on price action and market like sentiment and macroeconomics and adoption. But every so often, like a fundamentally different risk vector surfaces in the public discourse. One that steps away from simple charts and enters the realm of the technological securities. In the recent high profile commentary, Charles Edwards, the founder of quantitative Bitcoin and digital asset fund Caprioli, issued a warning that has drawn attention not because it's tied to short-term price momentum or technical resistance level, but because it highlights a potential existential threat rooted in cryptography itself. Edwards' perspective shared a social post suggesting that unless the Bitcoin protocol becomes resistant to quantum computing attacks by the year 2028, the value of Bitcoin could drop significantly below $50,000, a level that represents a deeply or meaningful retracement from current trading price. Oh, you can see so much selling positions that are happening right now. There's so much selling that's going on because of the liquidation area. Sellers are trying so hard for the price to not hit this liquidation area, and you can see even now, because buyers are buying a lot, there's a basically the opposite liquidation sweep at the very bottom. So the goal for the basically the sellers right now is to hit this area down here, to hit this liquidity sweep, so it continues to go down. But because it's very, very close and it's not really guaranteed that it will hit that, it could just hover around this area for a decent amount of time, which it has been. Because it already liquidated two positions over, like two very big liquidation sweep areas. It might not hit this liquidity area as well. It reached very, very high where it almost liquidated a lot of people, but it didn't reach all the way to the very top. And now there is so much selling that's going on, but even there's even like a pretty huge amount of buyers as well. Yeah, as I said before, we're looking right now at the Lux Algo liquidity sweep area and the support and resistance level with like a breakpoint. We can see the support and resistance here at this area, but there's now probably a new support and resistance level around this area. The liquidity sweep is only like 5, only wicks 300. And even the support and resistance, you can kind of see the breaker blocks, like where the bull wick is and where the bear wick is. Like for example, this is like a bull wick over here. Yeah, and the price now is hovering around 87,500. It reached all the way down, all the way to like 87,900, but it went all the way down because a lot of sellers are trying to basically short this position. So this is why it's hovering around this area. So a lot of like sellers are putting more short positions. So continuing with the article, this gist of like this warning stems from like long-standing academic and industry concerns about quantum computing. So now we're not talking about just binary or something. We're talking about quantum computing and theoretical, like other theoretical thing, like potential to break traditional encryption schemes that underlie most modern digital security systems, including the elliptic curve signature used in Bitcoin protocol. So it means that like even if you have a Bitcoin, like a Bitcoin wallet or something like that, it might like get hacked very quickly using a quantum computer. Quantum computers theoretically, or early experimental machines that exploit quantum mechanical phenomena such as superposition and entanglement, are fundamentally different from like classical computers. They operate on like qubits that in principle could solve certain problems far faster than classical hardware. Among these problems is integer factorization and discrete logarithms. This is like among these problems, basically, which are like the core of many public key cryptographic system. While the technology required to break robust cryptography at scale remains highly speculative, the very discussion about quantum readiness has transitioned from abstract academic speculation into something market observers feel they must take seriously given the stakes. Yeah, looking back at the price right now, it's hovering around 87,500, and there's a lot of selling that's happening over here and a lot of buying that's happening over here, because still buyers are still trying to make the momentum go all the way up here, so they liquidate liquidate the shorter positions, where then it will be like sweeping all the way up there if it hit this position area. But it's still like hovering around this area, and it's hasn't really moved around this support and resistance area or like short-term support and resistance level. So now it's hovering around 87,560. And even like the candles, I could see this one almost hit the liquidity sweep at the very top here, but it didn't reach it. And now we can look at some other like basically key point and like high time frames breakout that might happen in Bitcoin right now. But now it's sitting around 87,400, so it looks like the sellers actually are hitting hard for the price to go down, because they don't want like to basically get hit the liquidity sweep over here. We can look at like some macro factors before about like basically like fair value gaps and other things. Like for example, we can see like how fair value gaps actually like happen. You can see this is a pretty big fair value gap, which then led to a little bit of selling like over here, and then another fair value gap, but this one hit a liquidity sweep, which made the price even go higher up, which hit another liquidity sweep, and then it hovered, like it stabilized around this area for a bit, and then at the very bottom here there was a lot of like basically like selling positions, but then because this is basically a traditional fair value gap, it went it reclaimed the position where it was after a little bit. Then it hovered around this area where a lot of like buying happened at the start of this liquidation sweep over here, so trying to hit a marker where basically a lot of positions will get liquidated, which then shot up the price over here back again. And then after that, after a lot of selling that happened, it tried to hit it hit like basically a pretty good bull wicks all the way at the very top here. Then we can like see over here a lot of like buying happened, and a lot of like basically people got liquidated from this area, which made the price go all the way around this, which is another huge liquidation sweep area. So a lot of buyers also a lot of sellers stepped in at the very start to stop it from continuing the momentum. Then a lot of buyers also continued because it's very close to getting liquidated, and then the same thing happened here where there's so many like buyers and sellers. Same thing for this candles over here, where it basically equalized the momentum where it was heading towards, and then so many like selling positions, like selling volume that happened that shot it up, almost liquidating all the positions at the very top here. But then so many like basically selling volume hit, where it went where it hit the price at the very bottom over here, where then after that it a lot of buying momentum started. This is why this candle like wicks over here is very interesting, almost hitting all this at the very top, almost this liquidation level at the very top. But then so many like selling volume happened, which is like kind of hasn't happened in a very long time, except for like around maybe this mark, to stop it from hitting this area. And then even then there's still a lot of buying momentum that tried to stop the to basically like hold the price here for more buyers to come in and try to hit the position to go up more. Yeah, you can see here from the amount of buying momentum that's happening over here. Now from the article that I mentioned before, Bitcoin price has entered a phase following its recent pullback, in which the market is neither like decisively trending upwards or sharply breaking like down, but rather compressing within a relative narrow range near the mid 80,000, which it is right now at 87,400. After the latest decline from higher lows, the price has been consolidating around the $87,000 zone, dropped below a multi-week resistance level that has repeatedly paused rallies and kept volatility like basically subdued. This compression where price swings become smaller and volatility like bleeds out is significant because often precedes a major directional move when it resolves. So in the context of like Bitcoin's larger trend, which remains structurally upwards on the highest time frames, this pattern of tighter price action and diminishing volatility, look at the price right now. It hit all the way down to 87,200 and it's still going down even further. This is like because buyers try to step in at least to save the momentum around here, but sellers are still trying to hit even lower or shorter areas. Yeah, and the price hovering around 87,230 right now. But even buyers are trying so hard to make the position even level at this area, but there's so many like selling volume that is happening right now that is controlling it. So yeah, the background against which this like compression is unfolding adds another layer of like nuance to the interpretation. The broader macroeconomics environment has grown like more complex with like traditional indicators such as rising unemployment or like shifting like market expectations about liquidity and policy response. Historically, periods of economic stress and rising joblessness eventually lead markets to anticipate increased liquidity support from central banks or other monetary authorities. Even if those policies are not yet in place, risk assets, including like Bitcoin, have shown in prior cycles that they tend to begin adjusting, like basically to anticipate changes in liquidity before the official policy like adjustment like arrives. So as investors price in future easing rather than react solely to present like conditions, this macro backdrop quite through it may be in the headlines at the moment, is therefore seen by some analysts as subtly supportive of a scenario in which Bitcoin's current compression resolves to the upside rather than the downside, especially given the interplay between markets and broader financial conditions over extended like time frames. But look at the price right now; it's here, sitting around 87,200, which is very interesting. There's so many like liquidity, basically like selling volume, even continuing at the very bottom here as well. Now, looking closely at their like recent price action, the pivotal support is at approximately like 88,000 right now. Was lost during like the pullback, and since that breach, the price has been forming a sequence of higher lows beneath resistance in the range of roughly 87,500 to 88,300. This pattern indicates that sellers have not like aggressively forced the price lower from current levels, even as buyers have so far been unable to push the price convincingly above resistance. So this type of price compression against a backdrop of low volatility is often described by market technicians as a squeeze. So where markets participants wait for clarity before committing to larger positions. Now we can see the price right now is actually going pretty high. There's a decent amount of like buying volume. It's almost removed all what's been happening over here, and yeah, it's reaching 87,500. Still, there's a pretty big liquidity sweep position at the very top here, which is very interesting. And the price now is sitting around 87,550, which is basically close to where it's been stabilizing for the past like 30 minutes or so. And now it's actually hitting the another like the liquidity is basically the liquidity sweep zone, but it still didn't reach it yet, and it's now around 87,520. We can see, like, even from previous areas where we see the liquidity sweeps at the very bottom here. For example, this is a smaller area like liquidity sweep. It still had a pretty significant effect where it hit here and then it stabilized around between these two liquidity sweeps, these two shorting liquidity sweeps at around this area. But then buyers even hit harder here, which made the price even go further up and like kind of like stabilize around this position, around this area. And then over here at this area where the other liquidity sweep starting to show, and a lot of buyers hit, a lot of buyers actually bought, so it hits this liquidity sweep area. But same thing with over here and other positions as well, where a lot of sellers even try to sell more, or like try to have other contracts to hit to lower the price, where they successfully did, almost even hitting the 86,800 mark for the liquidity, the opposite liquidity. But then there's so much buying momentum happened, so many like even like bull wicks over here, where it even hit the other liquidity sweep at the very top, hitting this mark. Then it went all the way up here, even closer to another bigger and major liquidity sweep area. Then after that, it's hovered around this area for a little bit, and now look at the price. It's going 87,700, nearly 87. Yeah, see, because there's a lot of liquidation events that might happen now. You can see now the price will even shoot up even slightly more, maybe around this area, because yeah, 87,970, almost at 88,000, where it just did hit that. Because yeah, see, now the price already got liquidated again. As we were talking, a lot of people got liquidated and the price is hovering around 88,140. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, see, now it's around 88,500, which is insane because it hit this liquidation levels as we were seeing right now. This is very, very interesting. And because there's so much liquidity, that liquidation level that happening, it shot up from 87,000 now to 88,700, which is insane. And it might even like hover now around this area over here, because a lot of sellers are selling. But still, because a lot of people basically have made money around this area, they will still try to even sell their position. A lot of people might sell their positions, so the price might not go a lot higher, but it's still very, very high. It's almost very interesting. You can see here, this is the highest it's been actually in a couple days now, like in a day or two. Yeah, it's hovering around 88,800. It shot up from 87,000 to 87,900, nearly 89,000. And it might even like reach that actually, because it's a pretty pretty decent position and a pretty even number. So a lot of people like to basically make it hover around that. Yeah, this is very interesting. We were literally looking at the price saying that if it did hit this area, it will shoot up very much, like very, very high. You can now see the price is around 89,000, like nearly 89,000. Yeah, you can also check as well, like liquidation heat maps. It shows you even more information than this, but for me, I like to see the liquidity sweeps from TradingView. Yeah, 89,300. This is insane. There is so much liquidation that happened here, so much liquidation, which is very noticeable actually. Yeah, I think the next liquidation level is probably even higher. If we look over here, there's this liquidation, but if people didn't sell over here, but this is still around 90,000, 89,800. So still actually extremely close to where we are. This is very interesting. It reached even 89,150 right now. can see, oh, this makes so much sense. You can see like the liquidation level, like the liquidity sweep at the very bottom here. Yeah, it's is Bitcoin going up? Yeah, it is actually. It's going up like insanely fast in the past like couple minutes, because it hit another like liquidity sweep area around 87,000, and now it's at 89,200. 82,300. That's very interesting. Yeah, we were just talking about like some just major crypto news, and like um, some some other pretty interesting news. Yeah, it looks scary the way it shot. Yeah, it's because there's a lot of, we can see here this liquidity sweep area or like position. A lot of people were shorting the price. So basically, if it hit that target mark, they would get liquidated. So the price would still like shoot up all the way up, which it just did. It's been hovering for like around this area for the past like 30 minutes, but after a little bit, a lot of buying volume happened, as you can see here, which pushed like from this area, around this area, it pushed the price to even hit like break this liquidity sweep at the very top. It might even hit like 80, it might hit 90,000 right now. It's at 89,470. This is very, very interesting. This is very interesting. It's very same as gold trading. Well, gold is not really did not have that liquidity around that area, like liquidity sweep, but the gold price is now still like 4,000 like 300, so it's around that. But right now we're just focusing around Bitcoin. Okay, and now we can see like maybe a lot of sellers are like stepping in as well over here. They're trying to hold the position over here because they might also get liquidated, because there might be another like liquidity sweep around 89,000. So they wouldn't want it to reach all the way up here, so they don't get like liquidated. But yeah, we were just talking about an article that we saw in TradingView. Like it's talking about like in practical terms, like it was saying that like the means that break above the newly formed like resistance zone, the 87,500 and the 88,000, would be like seen as a significant moment in price action, because it would clear the way like for Bitcoin to revisit higher levels that the market has recently tested but failed to sustain. Beyond this like near-term resistance, there's another like notable barrier at around 89,000, but we already just passed that. Yeah, 89,000. A level that like since the beginning of the month has like acted as a trend reversal zone, but now we're at 89,500. It actually might reach 89,000 if we see any like other liquidity sweeps, or like big liquidity positions. But yeah, there's like another like notable barrier around like 89,000 with a level. Yeah, it's crazy today. It's going up so fast. It basically like removed like everything that happened in the last 2 days. Based like on historical like pockets, like areas around 90,000 and 92,000. These are probably gonna be like the newest high price levels soon. Pockets and areas of short where price inefficiencies have like previously existed. So these pockets are zones where fewer trades occurred historically, and where like the market may like seek to fill gaps as price extend upwards. A dynamic often referred to the technical essence as a gap fill, basically, or liquidity sweep, which we basically saw right now what has been happening, and it actually might reach 90,000 right now. It's around 89,881 right now. This is very interesting. There's so much buying momentum that's happening right now. We thought it will shoot up from like from around here. I didn't think it will be all the way up to like 89,000. I thought it will hover around like maybe 88,500 or something. But there's so much like liquidity that's happening here. Yeah, it's for the strong-hearted. And, like there, you can see so many people trying to like sell around this area, and probably like short it, but they got liquidated hard from this area. Yeah, as we were talking about, like, and the article itself, it's saying like an important like dimension of the current environment is the interpretation of an on-chain data and derivative positioning beneath Bitcoin's price. According to the article, like indicators such as like wallet behavior, supply held by long-term holders, and uh, future open interests do not align with like patterns typically associated with panic selling or capitalization. Specifically, futures like open interests. The total number of like outstanding derivative contracts has remained elevated near $60 billion rather than collapsing, which would be a sign of forced like delivering and capitulation among leveraged traders. At the same time, funding rates, which measure like the cost of holding leveraged positions uh, in perpetual futures market, have stayed around neutral rather than spiking to extremes. This neutrally suggests that neither buyers nor sellers are overwhelmingly dominant in the short term, but right now there's an overwhelming amount of buyers that are happening right now because of the price difference that just occurred. This is very interesting. The price actually might hover around like 89,500 area, as we can see, because a lot of people might start selling. And the next, actually, as we can see here, the next liquidity sweep position from the indicator that I'm using is the Lux Algo liquidity sweep indicator on TradingView. Is showing that the next one is around the $90,000 mark. So a lot of like it probably will not hit that, but a lot of sellers will try to, or like shorting positions. Um, yeah, it's another shock move. Yeah, it's because a lot of like liquidity, a lot of people got liquidated at this area, so that's why the price went up very high. But it also, there's another liquidation event that is at the very top here, liquidity sweep. I mean, that might occur at the very top here, from the indicator that I see. So buyers might still even want to hit that mark, which would even like, which would even, what's it called, drive the price even higher. Yeah, this is very interesting. Like even the last like 10 minutes where the price actually uh, went up pretty high, there's not a lot of major news covering this. Even like TradingView doesn't even, it didn't even cover this yet. There's not a new report that came out about it. But yeah, it might actually like hover around this area, around the $89,700 or seven or like $500 mark for a little bit before it even goes up to the $90,000 mark. Yeah, someone's sitting somewhere sipping a drink control. Yeah, most likely. But we can just watch and learn, you know. Yeah, the price right now is hovering around 89,500. When can I start short? Ah, yes, you cannot. You need to know that for yourself. This is uh, this is still very uncertain right now because of what happened right now. Yeah, as I was saying from the article that I was reading, that I was talking about, the macro backdrop like interacts with these like technical and on-chain signals in ways that some analysts view as like quietly supportive uh, of upside resolution. So, as noted, basically rising unemployment and other economic stress indicators have historically increased expectations of liquidity support. Um, yeah, of liquidity support from central banks. oh, the price actually might hit. Look at this. Let's actually, this is, oh, it actually might hit 80, might hit 90,000 and even go more up because of the the position over here. This is very interesting. Risk takers are interesting. Yeah, there's so many like buyers that is happening right now. This will get liquidated, so it's most likely, and if it hits this zone over here, it will probably go shoot up even more now. Yeah, I don't think you should liquidate anytime soon. You should short anytime soon. Yeah, now the price probably will shoot up a little bit more because of the liquidity that's the liquidity sweep that's hitting over here, but we're not sure yet because I only see a small part of it. Yeah, see, now it went up a little bit more because now it's over 90,000, 90,150. So even this small liquidity sweep at the very top here, liquidity pool, it still got hit and liquidated other people. Yeah, so you can see it's still going more up, as we saw before. This is why you shouldn't short anytime soon, because if you short it around this position, saying that, oh, it will not hit this liquidity liquidity sweep at the very top here, liquidity zone, it did just hit it. So it's not, you should still like watch and learn first, because this is very uncertain at this moment. So like risk after often like price in these anticipated support before they are formally like enacted. So coupled with relatively controlled leverage in the derivatives market and stabilization in flows into exchange traded products such as Bitcoin ETFs, some observers argue that that there is insufficient evidence of broader distribution to suggest a whole shift towards bearish market psychology in this framing. The ongoing compression and tightening of risk time frame technically signals could be seen not as a sign of exhaustion, but as like preparation for a directional breakout. Once enough participants are convinced that resistance has like been overtaken. Of course, this interpretation depends on like interplay of multiple factors, including macroeconomics development. Yeah, we can see the price right now of Bitcoin is insane. Like it shot up so fast. It even like it's higher now from all like from this area where it got liquidated like the other day. A lot of people like got liquidated the other day. Now it's all the way around 90,000 and 100, which is insane right now. Yeah, it's 90,000. Yeah. And there's even more like you can see here, there's so many like what's it called, liquidity sweep zones area, I guess. So sellers will try I've lost a lot reading myself. Any good strategy? I think the thing is like you're trying maybe too many strategies. You should try like to focus on one single strategy that works for you, and you don't even have to complicate it. You can just like watch how like fear value gap works or something like that, and then you can like kind of understand what's happening. The thing is like you should not like try a lot of other strategies. You should try the strategy that works for you. So you should just search your own strategy and find one that you like and you kind of understand, and try to like work that in. Right now it's sitting around 89,000. Yeah, a lot of selling is happening right now because there's another like liquidity sweep at the very top. So a lot of sellers will try to like not get even more liquidated at the very top here on $90,000 to $90,300 mark. You can see even from the wicks over here, even this specific candle, like how uncertain it was, from the amount of buying and amount of selling was insane. So it doesn't like even hit this shorting area, where it even hit even at this around this area. It did even hit that shorting area, but it might not have hit all the way at the very top. So that's why it didn't really liquidate anything. It will sell when it reaches 95,000. Yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully very soon. And by what we're seeing right now, it might reach it like pretty soon. But because even like here there's a liquidity zone, so if it hits this mark, it will still even go higher even more. Which is very, very interesting. Right now the price is around 90,150, and I'm using like two indicators from like from TradingView. I'm using the support and resistance indicator, which is really not necessary right now, but we're also looking at the Lux Algorand liquidity sweeps, or any like liquidation heat map or something like that you can use will show you even more where liquidity is standing. So you should also like use a liquidity sweep heat map or something as well, as or like a liquidity heat map by itself. That's very interesting. But I really often see how like reliable this liquidity sweep indicators are. Oh yeah, we hope it will recover from previous month. It looks like it will be, hopefully very soon. Right now it recovered at least from what happened nearly like a week ago, but or like a couple days ago, which is pretty good. Around 94,000. Maybe it hit around 90,000. It hit over 90,000 a couple minutes ago, so it's pretty interesting. Let's see if there's any trading news article about like talking about what happened. Right now the price is sitting around 90,000, and we were talking about like some other articles, by the way. We can continue discussing about it. Basically, let's continue discussing about what we were talking about in the article itself. Like, despite the focus like on upside potential for Bitcoin, the article also acknowledged that like the compression and tightening price structure do not guarantee that the move will be upwards. But we can see now that the move already hit like 90,000. It's very interesting that like there's not really like TradingView didn't publish anything in the past 17 minutes like talking about what happened, because this is a very like significant moment, hitting 90,000 in since like a couple days ago at least. But yeah, from what we were discussing, like if Bitcoin price is rejected at like the key resistance and fails to break uh, above like the threshold that we were talking about, which is like 92,000, the market could instead sweep lower support levels such as near like 85,600. So such a move would not like necessarily constitute a full trend reversal unless key levels like 84,200 were broken on a like daily closing, for example, basis. A condition that many technical analysts use as a threshold for structural change. In other words, short-term fluctuations within this pattern could resemble a reset of price discovery. In other words, like short-term fluctuations within this pattern could resemble a reset of price discovery rather than like a definitive break. Basically, a definitive break of the long-term trend. Understanding this nuance is like critical, because it basically reinforces the idea that compression is a state of uncertainty rather than certainty in either directions. So confirmation comes only like with persistence beyond key technical barriers. We can see here even the price hit the liquidity sweep zone. So if it continues around this mark over here and continues more up, which it looks like it's doing, the price will even get even way further high, because there's it looks like there's a lot of liquidity area. This is why even like when it hit this area, there was another like liquidity event at the bottom here, like over here. You can see from this area over here, and still like there's a lot of buyers that are coming in right now, trying to sweep the shorting positions at this area. But the interesting thing is like there's not really any major news that is discussing what just happened, which is significant, like a big like an interesting part, Bitcoin hitting 90,000 again after a pretty like hard couple days. Now it's sitting at 90,278, which is pretty interesting actually. So as I was saying, like the discussion of Bitcoin's like current compression and macro backdrop is not just like price action, but the broader context in which like markets operate. It reflects an environment where like traditional macro variables, derivative positioning, and on-chain behavior are all converging in a way that like some analysts have historically associated with significant breakouts, especially when the underlying trend on higher time frames remain upwards. So like importantly, while like this narrative highlights conditions that could support like a breakout, it does not like assert that the breakout is imminent or inevitable. Markets are like a dynamic system influenced by like multitude of reasons, multitude of like factors as well. And technical patterns that resemble prior breakout setups do not always like resolve in the same manner due to change in sentiment, external like shock, or shifts like in liquidity conditions. Yeah, so now Bitcoin is hovering around 90,200, which is very interesting, and I think there's still like a lot of buyers trying to basically hit this key level over here around 90,000 like 400 ish. And if it did hit that level, it means there's more liquidation that will happen, which will drive the price even more up to an even higher like price level, maybe even 90,500, 90,800. But right now, even though there's a pretty decent amount of buying momentum, there's still like a lot of selling volume as well, from what we can see from this wicks as well. So it's hitting around 90,250. Even in the new candle, it's like a positive, so it's very good. But yeah, we can see like what happened down here. This is like what drove the price insanely high. We can talk about it again, that like there was so much like liquidity sweeps at the very bottom here, where it basically, after hitting this liquidity sweep point, it drove the price all the way over all the way up to like 90,000. And even though there was more like liquidation that might hit here, you can see there's a lot of sellers that try to stop it at that, around that area, but there's so much like buying momentum over here, buying volume over here, that also drove the price even more higher. So it even hit this liquidity area as well. Yeah, you can see now the around this area is kind of happening the opposite, because there's so much buying potential that happened. You can see at this around this area, the sellers are trying to step in so they don't get even liquidated more if the price reaches this area. Because if the price actually reaches this around this area, the momentum will hit again, it will shoot up more. But because sellers are trying to hit, trying to not get liquidated, so they're putting even more positions in, so they try to like drive the price down because of this liquidation area over here. You can see even like around this, it tried to hit a very high level. Even here, trying to hit another very basically high level, but it didn't hit it. So even now it's like going down below the 90,000s, around 89,900. Let's see if even like TradingView said anything about it, which it should have, because it's been nearly like half an hour without any articles, even though Bitcoin hit 90,000. And now it's going below 89,800. Should I sell it now? You should double check, because we're still in an uncertain position. You can see here, you can see that the price around this area has another major liquidity sweep. So this means that if the price hits this area over here, if it went down from 89,900 to around 90,400, it will even drive the price more. But if you have profit already, do your thing, you know. Because if you bought at the very bottom here and you were already making so much profit from it going from 87,000 to 90,000, so it's a pretty good investment, you know. But yeah, you can see there's a lot of sellers that are trying to stop the momentum that's been going up over here, trying to basically hold the position here or even drive it lower. But because there's a lot of liquidity that's happening up here, it means that it actually might hover around this area for a bit, or at least have even more selling or more like buying positions that are gonna hit soon. But yeah, you can see now, because there's a lot of, as we were saying, there's a lot of liquidity sweep area, or like a liquidation pool over here. The sellers are trying so hard for it not to redo what it did over here again, where it literally liquidated so many people. But yeah, this is basically it shot up way higher where it was like a couple days ago. But the thing is, like, it shot up extremely fast because, as we mentioned before, there's from what I use from like the liquidity, the Lux Algo liquidity sweep is just a basic trader view indicator that is there that you can see. Where a lot of positions, a lot of buying and selling happened over here, where buyers are trying to like hit the liquidity sweep area, where a lot of people might get liquidated, so the price will shoot up all the way up here. It even happened, like we can see at the price at the very bottom as well, happened multiple times over here as well. Like you can see here where it even people got liquidated, so the price even shot up a little bit more because there's liquidity position is actually pretty small. Now the price is around 90,000 exactly, which is very interesting. It's hovering around 90,000, and it actually might, because even though there is so many selling positions or like selling volume at the very bottom, the wicks is still pretty, the candle is still pretty even, because a lot of buyers are still trying to hold the position around like the $90,000 mark. So even if it even if it stays around here, if it hits this top area over here on the $90,300 mark or the $90,400 mark, the price still might even shoot even more higher. But maybe a lot of because a lot of like sellers stepped in, because $90,000 is a pretty what's it called, significant time frame, pretty significant time. So a lot of people still will try to save their remaining liquidity, or remaining, like, don't get liquidated again. But yeah, now the price is around 89,970, and it's so interesting that there's not any like TradingView article or anything talking about what's happening right now, because even though it's very significant, and usually like they would post things during like a couple minutes even after that. But yeah, the price right now is around 89,800, and there's also a pretty major like liquidity sweep, like liquidity pool around here. So if the price even, yeah, looks like it's suddenly going, it is, yeah, because sellers are like trying to not get liquidated. So some positions here are saying that Bitcoin will short. So because they want Bitcoin to go down, they would put money on the opposite side. So if it like basically is like betting that Bitcoin will go down. So that's why like it's trying to go down, so it doesn't hit this specific area. Yeah, short. It's around 89,700. But the thing is, you can actually like see similar momentum happening here as well. It might even like go below as well, like similar to what's happening here. Where even though it went below where the liquidity sweep, like liquidity area is, it still might even reach higher if a lot of buyers step in. But we can see from like the last like couple candles that there's been a lot more like selling positions, or yeah, selling positions rather than, or selling volume than buying volume. This is very interesting. Yeah, now it's going down to 89,700. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's still hovering around 89,600. At first, I thought it will hover around that because when it reached like 89,500, I thought it will hover around for a bit. But there was some liquidity like liquidation areas like over here where it enticed even more buyers to buy more. So it like liquidates the other positions basically. Now it's sitting around 89,700. Yeah, around 89,800, and just sitting around this for a bit. There's so much like buying and selling like volume that's happening right now. Yeah, and because a lot of people already took profit at the very top here, it probably will shoot down for a little bit at least until it stabilizes, unless there's like any big buying potential that might happen. But the thing is, because there's a lot of liquidity sweeps at the very top here, so it's still very enticing for buyers to even make the price go around like 90,500 or something. But because it already like they got shot up very fast from 97,000 all the way to 90,000, so this might actually be a pretty like stable area over here, or might even go down lower because a lot of people took profit from this area, so they will try to sell their positions. But still, you can see there's so much like buying and selling momentum from this wicks over here. And the price now is around 89,600. As we were saying previously, at the very bottom here, we can see like basically what triggered all of this. Over here, there's basically like a shorting liquidity sweep area, where basically if it hit this area, a lot of people will get liquidated, so the price will go up more. Basically like shorting positions getting liquidated. Same thing happening here after it already triggered that. It also reached this around this liquidity area where people like fought, and like it stabilized for this area for a little bit, but there was so many like buying positions as well, where even under this area over here, like there was like a lot of selling, and then suddenly it shot up to a lot of buying positions, where it hit this liquidity pool, where it like basically the liquidity sweep where it went all the way up to 90,000. But yeah, even now it's very interesting that TraderView, like a lot of major news, did not even cover that Bitcoin just went up pretty significantly in the last like couple minutes. It basically like removed what happened in the past like basically a couple days, like 2 days ago, what it did 2 days ago. And even now there's basically a lot of buying positions still trying to hold the momentum at like $90,000. Because like if it still reaches this target around 90,400, it will shoot up pretty high as well, maybe reaching 90,800 or even like higher, because there's a lot of liquidity sweep, which we saw at the bottom here. We saw literally live happening. So even though the sellers will not want it to happen, it's a lot of buying volume is still hitting. But yeah, so it's hitting sitting around 89,000 right now, 89,970, which is very interesting. Yeah, we're looking at certain articles from TradingView and discussing them actually previously before what was happening in Bitcoin right there. So there's like a big debate about they're talking about like the Bitcoin's 4 year cycle break and like is the bull market really over? So the debate over whether like Bitcoin's long-standing like 4 year cycle has broken and whether the broader bull market is over has taken center stage in recent like market commentary. So reflecting both tactical price behavior and shifts in market structure. So uh, like that had emerged following like the April 2024 halving event. Historically, Bitcoin has been understood to move in roughly 4 year cycles linked to its programmed supply halving schedule, and with price typically peaking between 12 and 18 months after each halving before entering a prolonged corrective phase. In this most recent cycle, Bitcoin's reached all-time high near 126,000 in October, which aligned with classic 18-month timing, observed after previous halving and subsequently declined more than 30%, which is where it's at right now, promoting discussion about the validity and durability of the traditional cycle framework. So we can see over here that the price is still around 89,900. It's still trying to do what it did back here, where it tried to stabilize around a certain price point, and like a another because if it did hit that area where it did, a lot of people will get liquidated pretty quickly. Similar thing to what's happening here. A lot of buyers wanted to hit the very top over here, so they liquidate other shorting positions. But a lot of sellers stepped in at this area, trying to like basically save themselves. And over here is like another like buyers still trying again to pick up the momentum to hit it around this area. And like if it did hit this area, it means that a lot of people will get liquidated and price will shoot up pretty quickly. But yeah, some market observers interpret the decline after the peak as consistent with historical patterns, suggesting that the initial stages of a broader bearish phase could be underway. This perspective is supported by like on-chain analytics such as the spent output profit ratio trend signal, which tracks whether coins are being sold at a profit or a loss. Historically, a sustained SOPR above 1 has coincided with external bullish phases, while a dip towards or like below 1 has signaled the onset of loss realization and deeper corrections. Yeah, we can see now it's even hitting the liquidity sweep zone. So this is like a lot of buyers stepping in, even though this you can see this candle over here, like basically meaning that there was an equal amount of buyers and sellers, and over here buyers are still stepping in. There's a lot of buying like volume that's happening to try to hit Bitcoin to go all the way above 90,400, because if it did, then long positions will make a pretty hefty profit. But even here the positions is still like very equal right now, and still like 1 minute till a candle even stops. Right now the Bitcoin price is around 89,900, with and like yeah, as I was saying from the previous article, SOPR was trending lower, indicating that Bitcoin was increasingly spent at smaller profit or at losses, which aligns with the narrative that the bull market's momentum may be running under the weight of traditional 4 year cycle dynamics. I see there's a lot of like sellers stepping in right now, trying to like not get liquidated at the very top. But it's very interesting that like that TradingView do not even publish any like article or anything, or like even talk about any specific article, even though Bitcoin right now is pretty high since like a couple days ago. And now it's hovering around. Yeah, you can see there's so much selling positions right now, and the candle even ended at the very bottom here. That's like sellers trying to save their positions and not get liquidated over here, or that's like basically people selling their profit after buying buying at like a lower area over here. Yeah, you can see a lot of people now are like either selling to try to like make profit from the quick jump that happened. And because like they didn't want to like they saw another liquidation event at the very top, they didn't want to sell at that time, and want so and wanted the price to even go higher up if it hit that liquidation like sweep at the very top. Yeah, and now it's going very fast, pretty fast down to around 89,400. Yeah, as I was saying from the article, if viewed through like the lens of this like factual like cycle thesis, the recent price behaviors could be seen as evidence that the classic boom and bust rhythm is like persisting. So a post-halving rally, a cycle peak, and now a corrective phase that incorporates realized losses and a cooling of bullish conversion. Veteran analysts such as Peter Bandit have even suggested that Bitcoin could revisit substantially lower prices levels in the months ahead of the corrective dynamic deepen further. Reflecting the historical pattern of significant drawdowns following cycle highs. Although Bitcoin resilience in the broader context of macroeconomic liquidity and institutional involvement complicates simple comparison with past cycles, the observed technical signals, price action, and on-chain indicators have led some within the market to caution that the traditional bull run narrative may be losing steam. I think it will go up, going down a bit, then go up. Yeah, maybe it will, because there's still basically major liquidity at the very top here, and this is the major like zone, the $90,000 zone. So even though it hit it before, it might do it again. But this a lot of buyers, and because the market already opened a little bit ago, so there's a lot of buyers that will step in as well to basically try to hit this $90,400 mark. But still, we can see a lot of sellers trying to not get liquidated if the price hit this area. But yeah, you can see what happened before, similar to exactly what happened up here, or like similar to what's trying to happen up here on a smaller scale. So if you look like at the very bottom here, we see basically like smaller liquidity sweep areas where even if they like get liquidated, the price will shoot up very, very slightly, similar to what's happening here, where this is the start of like the liquidation area, the liquidity sweep. A lot of buyers try to hit the liquidity sweep area, but then they couldn't do it, and then after a little bit of momentum, they did hit it at the very end here, which shot the price up a little bit all the way over here to a pretty major liquidity sweep area. Then after like it being basically stable for a little bit, the price then got like it hit the other liquidity area around 87,900, then shot all the way back up here, and then even at the bottom here it did actually might have liquidated a bit. But yeah, the price now is like dipping pretty hard. I think people are just taking profit at this area, or they're just like a lot of sellers are trying to put more positions to stop the price from hitting this next liquidity sweep zone. And I always suggest, if you're gonna try to trade anyway, you should have like indicators. You should like take your time and like make sure that you understand what you're doing, of course. And if you're gonna lose, if you're gonna trade with money, make sure don't make sure to understand that you might lose this money. But yeah, you can see here that even though there's a lot of selling momentum, a lot of buyers are still trying to hold on and like stabilize around this area, which is similar to also like what happened around here. But for it to even arrive to this liquidity area for the short positions, it still has to go up by nearly $1,000 pretty soon, but it's not doing that. So it's like taking its sweet time right now because there's a pretty even amount of buyers and sellers. The article that we were talking, let's actually quickly look if TradingView actually has anything talking about this, which is interesting because they haven't had an article in about an hour, which is insane. But yeah, as I was saying, the article that we were talking about before, it highlights that the traditional 4-year cycle paradigm may be under pressure, not only because of price action, but because of the very focus that once drove cycle behavior, such as like scarcity dynamics tied to halving and retail investor psychology. They are now like being joined by a broader set of structural influences, institutional adoption through spot Bitcoin ETFs, corporate treasuries accumulating Bitcoin as a reported asset class, diversification play, and macro tailwinds linked to inflation and currency debasement risks have introduced demand drivers that were far less pronounced in previous halving cycles. You can see now Bitcoin is actually dropping under 89,000, which is very interesting right now. Yeah, it's dropping very hard, 88,900, because there's probably another short position, long positions over here that might get liquidated around the 88,000 or 89,000. Yeah, we can see now Bitcoin's around 88,700 and it's dropping fast. I think this is a lot of people just selling their profits that they did from the bottom here, or this is just, yeah, this is most likely that. Yeah, so this is kind of the opposite of what happened here. This is what the sellers have been trying to do at the bottom here. You can see always near this liquidity sweeps, there's a lot of fighting that's happening between buyers and sellers, because basically, as I said before, if it did hit this liquidity area where it did, then it would like basically liquidate a lot of people, which then shoots the price up very fast. It will liquidate a lot of like short positions. This is what basically sellers try to do at the bottom here, but kind of failed to do at the end because a pretty like a major like price swing happened because because it reached already like 88,000 mark. Then it liquidated a lot of positions, hitting all the way up to $90,000. But now it's around 88,600. Basically, the buying momentum kind of slowed down a lot because they already basically either bought and liquidated other people and got their profit, or maybe around this area. But yeah, now it's around 88,600. So if you shorted from this position, you would have made a pretty decent amount of money. Yeah, now the price is around 88,700, which is very interesting, and it's trying to stabilize around this price point, but it's very hard. And also this is pretty much kind of a fair value gap at a certain like degree, but so it might either stabilize the position over here or it might shoot up. But a lot of people are like selling right now because this is a very unique behavior for it to shoot up so quickly and go down quickly. This hasn't happened in a very long time, maybe similar to what happened here, but this one is on even like way bigger scale since a couple days ago. But yeah, now it's hitting like even lower from the very high that we saw at 90,400 and hitting now at 88,400. So nearly basically like $2,000 down, but it's still like pretty much over like nearly 0.7% higher than the start. So it's pretty good, but it's still pretty much dropping shortly. Yeah, and there's now, even though there's a lot of positions here, it will drop even if it drops pretty fast. It will drop like super fast because a lot of people are like basically sold over here and either like bought long or shorts. So they might hit like other liquidity sweeps that we don't see here. If you see other like liquidation heat pulls, liquidation heat maps, for example. There's other sites that you can use that have like pretty good liquidation heat maps, and you can like kind of indicate where the price is going from there. And now prices like dropping like crazy, 88,200 from all the way to like nearly at like $2,000 down since like literally a couple minutes ago. So as I was saying, from the yeah, it might even drop under 88,000 now. Yeah, it basically almost removed everything that's happening from 88,000, where it like liquidated so many people all the way to the very top, and now it like even like closer to where the original liquidation happened at the very left here. But as I was saying, like according to research by like Grayscale Investments, referenced in the article that we were talking about, these emerging forces could like challenge the notion that Bitcoin price behavior must remain tethered to like past halving driven cycles, and instead of like could support renewed upwards momentum in the first half of 2026, potentially setting new record highs. So institutional inflows into US based Bitcoin ETFs with collective holdings over 1.3 million Bitcoin represent a structural like shift in market participation that places long-term capital into the ecosystem at scale, not seen in earlier cycles. Alongside corporate treasury accumulation, these institutional demand signals suggest that the supply and demand dynamics underpinning Bitcoin may be evolving. Yeah, and there's like even more buyers like stepping in now, maybe because they have certain liquidation areas around 88,000. But there's still a lot of momentum going on, and it's very interesting that like even using TraderView, they didn't even mention anything about what just happened right now. And even if they mention it, it's not going to be a very accurate of what's happening, because they will probably mention that the price is around 90,000, which now it dropped below 88,000 or like around 88,000. Right now it's around 88,460, and it's kind of hovering, probably gonna hover around this area for a bit, unless other major like shorting positions or like another major sell-off happens. But you can see like a lot of buyers are now stepping in back again, maybe trying to reclaim. Looks laughable. Yeah, it's very 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 laughable about what's happening right now, from 87,900 to all the way to like 90,000, and then back down all the way to 88,000. It did way, like it did so much more than what's been happening for the past like 2 days in literally like a couple minutes. But yeah, but because even around this area it was like, it was so close still to like another liquidity sweep at the very top here. So even if it reached around like 90,400 or around this area, it would have most likely like liquidated a lot of short positions as well, which then would have probably shot the price even more up. But because a lot of like sellers like trying to basically not get shorted, so they profit 400 selling short. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, if you sold short all the way from over here around 90,000, now it's 88,000. That's very good. And it's even like going close to where it first got liquidated, around like 70,900 or 87,900, which it just did. 87,800, and even shorter now. It's even like lower now, around 87,824, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, speaking of the article that I was mentioning of the article from the Trading View one, at the same time, like broader macro concerns such as like rising public debt, inflationary pressures, and the perceived need for scarce assets as portfolio ballast have reinforced like narrative positioning Bitcoin as like an alternative source of value. So further complicating the traditional cycle like breakdown of bull and bear market phases. This alternative perspective posits that Bitcoin market trajectory may increasingly resemble a super cycle driven by structural adoption over multiple years, rather than just a rhythm tightly tied to 4-year halving intervals. But yeah, now literally Bitcoin is going all the way down to 87,800, basically removing all what happened from this all the gain that happened literally in the last like couple minutes, which is very interesting. Even though you can see here the buyers still try to hold the position, or like try to stabilize the position at around this area over here. It's they still fail to do so. So like a lot of sellers stepped in. And now it's even shorter than where the other liquidity positions started, around 87,500. That is very, very interesting right now. See, that's why like some people asked if they could like long of the top here or even short at the top here. Stabilizing around here is very basically very hard to know where the price is exactly is going, because if we would have said that, oh, similar to what happened back here and back here and back here on like a way smaller scale, you would have said, oh, it's definitely going to hit all the way at the top of this basically liquidity sweep pool, but it didn't. A lot of sellers sold at this area, or like a lot of sellers like tried to not get liquidated at this area. Shorter, like a lot of people who shorted and tried to not get liquidated at this area. That's why the price went down very, very fast. But there's so much like momentum going down, around 87,600 right now, even like hovering around where it started literally a couple minutes ago, which is insane. But yeah, so the article basically said like the highlighted like a nuanced debate over whether Bitcoin traditional 4-year cycle has like broken, and whether the current market environment signals the end of the bull market. On one hand, price action following the 24 halving align with like historical pattern of peaking and correction, supported by on-chain metrics trending towards less realization. On the other hand, emerging demand from institutional channels and macroeconomics narratives that like differentiate the current cycle from past ones, introducing alternative frameworks for understanding Bitcoin's next phase. This position underscores the complexity of like interpreting market outcomes, so like purely through the lens of past cycles, suggesting instead that analysts and participants must consider both traditional technical rhythms and the broader evolution of market structure when evaluating the health and direction of Bitcoin's price. Similar to what's happening here. You have to evaluate like everything, because this did not make like a lot of sense right now. This made sense hitting this liquidity pool. If you would have bought long by then you would have probably made profit all the way over here. But then if you thought about the same thing around this area, you would have thought also, oh, the price is also hitting this major area at the top, hitting this area at the very top, and then it will also get like liquidate. It will also liquidate a lot of short positions, which then would like hit then would make the price even go even higher up. But It didn't because a lot of sellers stepped in, and even though buyers tried to make the price like go up, they failed to do so because there's a lot of like sellers stepping in. So right now it's even way lower than where it started at the very start here. And it even like reached like 87,200, which is very interesting right now. But yeah, even if we look at TradingView, they only have in like an article from over an hour ago, which is insane for what literally happened the other day. Yeah, they have an article from like 11 minutes ago, but it's talking about Michael Saylor's like denies panic and amid Bitcoin's press roller coaster. Well, let's see what he mentions here. Because Michael Saylor, like the I freaked out, guys. Yeah, it makes sense because it's insane about what's literally happening right now. It went all the way from literally 87,000 all the way to 90,000, and then now it's going all the way down to 87,500, which is insane, even before the price even started, and still hovering around 87,500 for the past bit. Even though there was a pretty decent amount of buyer momentum as well, it still is not very clear where like the price is going right now. It might still like stabilize around this price area because this is where it's been stable for the past like couple hours, but only now I don't see why I kind of understand why it did shoot up really quickly, because if we see even the past hour, there was this major like liquidity sweep that's happening over here. So even it like tried to reach it here and tried to reach it here, but failed to do so. So even like reaching it here, it liquidated a lot of people. So it literally made the price shoot all the way up here, which is very interesting. But even at the very top here, there's even like as you can see, like there's even more liquidity sweeps at the very top. That's why a lot of people even tried to get the price to go even higher around this area, which if it did, then it would have liquidated so many people, driving the price more up, but it didn't. So now it's just a lot of sellers are stepping in, which and a lot of sellers are stepping in. A lot of people are like taking profit from what they from what they made from this area. But yeah, now it's even dropping lower to even before the other liquidity sweep that we saw before. So this is very interesting. Yeah, this is very interesting right now. And even like as you can see, like at this area, it tried to have like a support and resistance zone similar to what was supposed to happen here, and tried to like stabilize around this area. But yeah, because this area is very not like safe for both parties, for the buyers and sellers, so it's very hard. Yeah, you can see at the very bottom here, another like liquidity event stepped in for like the long positions. So this might be a long position liquidity sweep. So if this price did hit this point, that means it will probably go down a little bit more than what we see here. You know, when the price will go up, oh, it's hard, because now you can see at the very bottom here, the price will probably go down more now because there's a liquidity sweep long position at the bottom here. So this means that the price will probably try to reach this area, and after it reaches this area, it will hit and liquidate more people. So the price will probably go more down for a little bit more, then will either stabilize or will go up, or the buyers will try to hold the positions over here so it doesn't liquidate the what like their entry prices are. Because this is like where people are betting that, yeah, you can see now there's a lot of some buyers are stepping in so they don't get liquidated at the very bottom here, but this might be like the opposite of what's happening at the very top here, where a lot of people might get liquidated, the price like shorting at the very bottom. But yeah, there was not really major news articles from like what's it called, from TradingView, which I thought they would give major like news about what just happened, considering this is like a pretty big, going from 87,000 all the way to 90,200, and then now all the way down to, yeah, you can see now, as I said, like did hit this liquidity mark right here. Yeah, it did hit this liquidity mark. It went down a little bit more. It might even go down slightly more and then like go up again. But yeah, this is very interesting. There's a lot, because not right now you can see where the like some liquidity zones for the buyers are. So they will, this will hover like for a little bit until like it reaches a certain point where it might liquidate some people. Yeah, see, so buyers now bought because they didn't want to get liquidated, so they basically tried to hold their positions from what you see down here. So yeah, because people are betting here that the price will go up, so they try to buy more Bitcoin or buy like make more contracts, so to drive like the price up for them to not get liquidated. But yeah, that's it for today's stream, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will probably stream again soon. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.